I flushed my baby down the toilet and I just like lost it.
You're going to have your baby, at least baby A today, and the baby's not going to survive.
Crying from like my soul.
Hey everybody, I'm here today with my sister Bird and my cousin Laura, and today we are going to talk about life after miscarriage. So I guess I'll start first.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want.
So my story is, it was back in, I got pregnant in 2018, November of 2018. It's actually November 11th, 2018. And I was really excited, and I was really excited. And, it was right around Christmas and everything. So, of course, we wanted to tell all of our family and stuff. And announced it, but we announced on Christmas, but on December 24th, we went to the doctor, and the doctor said they did an ultrasound, they said the baby wasn't growing, and it was a high possibility that I was going to miscarry. So as a Christian, I was like, I'm not going to have a miscarriage because God is not going to let that happen to me, and I'm just going to believe God. But inside, I was like really scared. And my sister was there. She actually was in town the day that we did the ultrasound, so she went with us.
I was in the room.
Yeah. I said you were there.
Okay.
So she was there in the room.
To be specific, she was there.
I was just there. I was not accepting the report. I was like, okay, lady, like, you don't know about us,
right? You
don't know about our,
like, we are super faith people. Okay, we gonna have this baby.
That's cute.
So
bye, Ashy.
Called the lady Ashy. It wasn't the lady's fault.
I know, but maybe she couldn't read. I was
the doctor.
She don't know what she's talking about.
Like, okay, doctor.
So so we had the ultrasound, and New Year's came, and then we had to go back to the doctor for another ultrasound. They still gave the same results. We actually went back on January 5th, and they said the baby's heart had stopped beating. And like at that moment, I kind of went into like panic mode. Like I wanted to be like in faith and be like, God is gonna do this and stuff, but I'm like, my baby's heart is not beating. I need you to get my baby's heart back, start beating or something, because I'm not about to lose this baby. And I kept going to work. On January 9th, I went to work, and I started spotting. And so at that moment, I'm like, no, it's going to be okay. I was at work walking around our building outside, and I was playing praise music, and I was shouting and screaming and thanking God. And I know the people in my office thought I was going crazy. Like a few of them came outside to see what's going on. And when I went back into the office, one of the guys was like, are you good now? And I was like, yes, I am. And then I told my boss, I said, I have to go because I'm starting to bleed. And she got all emotional, and I was like, nope, I can't do emotion right now. I just need to go. And I had to go to the ER. And then we sat there for hours, and I told them, I was like, I'm bleeding, I'm pregnant. I was at that time 10 weeks. And I was like, so they said that my baby's heart wasn't beating and everything. So they did the ultrasound. It was like, yeah, there's still no heartbeat. And then they sent me home. They said, just go home. If the bleeding gets worse, then, you come back. And I was like, this is stupid. So I went back home. And then the next morning, I got up and I was going to go to work. And tell me, I got up and I was going to go to work. But I was so physically drained. My husband was like, "You are not going to work." So I laid down, and he had to go to work that afternoon. And so I let him go to work. He was like, "Do you want me to stay home?" I was like, "No, it's fine." And I just kept bleeding. And then it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is on the 10th. I started bleeding really bad, and I started like hemorrhaging, and like these huge blood clots started coming out. So I'm like texting him, but where he works, he couldn't have his phone in there. So I'm trying to reach him, and I'm contacting my friend who works in the same building to see if she can reach him. And I'm like, okay, this is not supposed to be happening right now. And so I keep going to the bathroom. Every time more clots come out. And my friend is like, well, I'm on the way. I'm going to come take you to the hospital. And I remember I went to the bathroom and I was screaming. I felt like I was in labor because by this time I had already had 2 children. So I knew what it felt like, contractions and stuff. And I was screaming because it hurt so bad. And at that moment, like tears just streaming down my face. And it felt like a part of me had just left. And when I got up off the toilet and I looked down, and it didn't look like it was blood everywhere, but it didn't look like the clots that had been coming out. And I just stood there for a while because I was kind of just in shock and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So then I flushed the toilet. And then my friend got there and she helped me to get dressed, and we went to the ER, and then they had me wait again and do all this tests, and then they did an ultrasound, and they said there was nothing in there. And then I just like broke down. My pastors came to the hospital. Actually, they came to the hospital on the 9th, the day before. And then they were checking on me the day that it happened. But like when the doctor told me, she said, yeah, there's no baby in there anymore. Everything is gone. And it like dawned on me, I flushed my baby down the toilet and I just like lost it. And so it took me a while to like really come to terms with that. Like the next day, because I had already told everybody that we were having the baby and stuff. And I hadn't really told anybody that the baby's heart had stopped beating and stuff. So when I was like, we lost the baby, a lot of people, called and texted and encouraged me. And a lot of people that I didn't even know had ever had miscarriages contacted me and told me about theirs and encouraged me. And they said, just a lot of different ideals. I can't say I agree or disagree with them. Everybody has their own opinion.
Look at the blessings of
Look,
the Lord.
she just popped up, y'all. Hey, mamas. Say hi.
She's smiling too.
No.
She said, y'all talking about babies?
But so some people were like, just if you get pregnant again, that same baby you will be, that baby spirit will go into another baby, and and it was just so much stuff. And I was like, I don't know if I can believe that. I don't know what to believe. God didn't tell me that I'm gonna get that baby back. I don't know if I got a baby in heaven or this is the baby. Because like 3 months later, I got pregnant with her. So this is Essence. Say hi, mamas.
Pretty girl.
And when I got pregnant with her, I was so scared. So this is going into my after miscarriage. I was so scared because I was like, what if it happens again? I don't know why it happened the first time. And I don't want to lose another baby. I didn't want to tell anybody because I'm like, what if I do something wrong and then I lose this baby? So it's been difficult. She actually was born January 11th. So she came the day after the anniversary of the miscarriage. And, I thought that January was going to be a really hard month for me. And it still is. I still think about it because after you have the miscarriage, most people don't usually continue to come around and be like, oh, how are you doing with it? But for me and for most mothers that go through this, that pain never goes away. It's not like the same pain that you went through at that moment, but it still lingers there. I still think about, is this the baby that I lost and it's just, same spirit but a different body, or is there another baby that I have that's in heaven? Like, I don't know. God's never really answered that question for me. So I ponder a lot on what that baby's life would have been like if that baby would have survived. What if that baby was a boy? I don't know. So I have a lot of thoughts about these things, but that's been pretty much my story. I'm thankful that I got blessed with this little rainbow ray of sunshine.
That's so it's so funny how you say like people just say things and you're just like, okay, like, because some people say good things and some people just shouldn't say things at all. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, you can't even respond to them because you really want to be like, please stop talking. And it's okay. And I think that, like, especially with miscarriage, I think it's a hard subject for people to address because, especially like if they haven't had it happen to them, to be like, how do you comfort somebody? A lot of people, are like, oh, well, wasn't really a baby, like people just don't know how to feel, I guess. And they don't know how to make you feel better. But like, my thing is just with people, like, you don't have to try and make me feel better because I'm not going to feel better right now.
There's no words you could say to.
You don't have to make me feel better. Just be there because you're not going to make me feel better. Like, let's just be real. Like, you're not going to make me feel better. I'm not going to suddenly be like, oh yeah, that's why I had a miscarriage. And so even if God told me the exact reason why I had a miscarriage, I don't feel like I would be like, oh great, I'm so glad that happened. Like,
right.
I feel like, like in my situation, I felt like, well, shoot, all my situation, but my first loss, they, basically told me I had an infection in my uterus that could have, not only would have killed my children, but killed me too if I hadn't delivered them when I did. And even that, with, Corey and everybody like, oh, well, maybe that's why God allowed it to happen so you guys all wouldn't die. And I'm just like, okay. Like, I don't know. Is it better? Like, now with Faith here, of course, like, I feel like I'm here for a reason. But at that time, like, and I don't mind dying, giving my life for my kids. Or, at this point, I've had my 5 losses, 4 miscarriages, and then the twins. And some people consider the twins a miscarriage. I was like right on the cusp because I think miscarriage is like up to 20 weeks. They call it a miscarriage. And then it's right after that, it's like infant loss or, stillbirth if your baby's born and not alive. But with us, we tried for a year and a half to get pregnant and realized like we were having fertility issues. So that was already like a struggle and stressful to go through when you're like, okay, God, like I'm ready to start my family. Can we get pregnant? And like nothing's happening. And for me, I wasn't. So it was 20. I got married in 2012. And I didn't get pregnant until 2014. So I was only 26. So I was still like young. So I'm like, why are we having issues? Like, my mom had 5 kids. Like my sisters both had like a zoo by that point. So I'm like, what about, what's going on with me? Because everybody else seems to be able to reproduce really quickly and I'm like struggling. So that was already stressful. And then, they put me on some fertility medication, and lo and behold, we get pregnant the first try, where they basically told me it was going to take like minimum of 6 months for the medicine to even start working. So we always wonder if it was the medicine or if it was just God saying, like, now here's your time, because the doctors were like, yeah, that's not supposed to work that fast. Like, and so, find out we're pregnant, super happy about it, go to our first ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech's like, do you have twins that run in your family? I was like, no. I don't know anybody with twins. And so she's like, well, I'm not a doctor or anything, but looks like there's more than one baby in there. And then the doctor confirmed it. So we're super ecstatic because, like, Lord, you went above and beyond our prayer.
Double the blessing, yes.
Like, now I know why we had to wait so long. Thank you, God. Like, okay, we done got 2 for press 1. Like, and so we're just like super ecstatic, immediately left the doctor's office and like calling everyone, calling our family and friends. Like, once we made it out of that first trimester, I was just like, we're golden, like, good to go. We made it past the 12 weeks. Like, what else is there? I was preparing for, they let you know, like, with twins, possibility you're going to have them early. We'll try and keep them in at least to 36 weeks, but, just heads up. So I was preparing for, they'll probably come earlier than, a full 40-week pregnancy, but that was it, like 15 weeks. And we were going for like our anatomy scan. And so because it was twins, I had to go to like my OBGYN, then I had to go to a high-risk doctor. So basically every week we were at the doctor's office. So my OBGYN, who would deliver the baby, she was like, you're going to go to your anatomy scan at the maternal fetal medicine doctor. This is what they should do. And one of the things she threw in there was like, they should check your cervix. Like, they'll measure your cervix. And then, of course, if you want to know the genders, you can, all this stuff. So I didn't think nothing of it. My mom and my grandma and my niece came into town to go to the appointment with us. And we went to the appointment, and they were doing the anatomy scan. And so they checked baby A, and they were like, it's a girl. And so we're super excited because up until that point, basically, they had been telling us we were having identical twins. So if baby A is a girl, baby B is a girl too. So like, you're having 2 girls, like, so we're excited. And they go to baby B and start the genitals area. It was clearly not a girl. Like, there was no denying that was not a girl. And so the next thing you know, the ultrasound tech is calling in like multiple doctors. They had like 3 doctors come into the room. Everyone's just like, how can these be identical twins and be 2 separate genders? Like, that's not possible. So because of all that excitement and confusion, stuff that was supposed to happen didn't happen. So I didn't think anything of it at the time that they didn't check my cervix or anything. I just, went back 2 weeks later, and they basically were like, well, we still don't see genitals, but, we're not going to worry too much about that right now. Then they checked my cervix, and that's when they noticed my cervix was way shorter than it should have been for 17 weeks pregnant. So they immediately put me on bed rest. Like, you're going home. You're only allowed to get up to go to the bathroom. And that's what I did. I came home, and it was a struggle, because I was used to doing things around the house, and now I'm just stuck like in the bed. For the sake of my kids, I'm going to do it. There's no doubt in your mind that you're not going to push through. And, at the end of this, I'll have my reward. So if I have to suffer for a little bit, I'll suffer. Then by my 20-week appointment, I went in, and they basically were like, you have no cervix left. So like, at this point, It's just not about when your or if your cervix is going to open. It's just when your cervix is going to open. Like, you're only 20 weeks. Baby's not viable to survive outside of the womb, at least until 24 weeks. So we just have to hope that your cervix doesn't open up before 24 weeks. So they sent me to the hospital, or like, and put me on hospital bed rest. And then one of my other doctors comes at the end of the weekend, because I was like a Friday. And Sunday he comes in and he's basically like, well, I mean, if you're going to lose the babies, you're just going to lose the babies. Like, there's no point in, yeah. Right. I was just like, huh? He's like, well, there's no real point in you staying at the hospital. Like, there's nothing we can do. If you go into labor, you're going to go into labor. Like, so whether you're home or here, he's like, so, you know, I don't really think that you need to be here. So he wasn't going to like sign off on me needing to be on hospital bed rest, which for insurance purposes, if your doctor's saying you don't need to do this, then your insurance is going to be like, well, we don't need to pay for this because your doctor said you didn't need it. So we were kind of forced, like, do we stay in the hospital and get stuck with this bill for us on our own, or do we just go ahead and go home? I mean, that was like a difficult decision, but we decided to go home. And that was Sunday. Monday I was fine, and then Tuesday I woke up like with like super sharp pains. And I had text Corey because he was already at work. I'm like, I'm really hurting. Like, I don't know what's wrong, but he's like, well, maybe you should go to the hospital. I'm like, no, because I was always like, my mind was always like, I'm not going to be one of those pregnant women that goes to the hospital every time she feels like an ache or pain. Like, I can make it through this. So I was like, no, I was like, we have a doctor's appointment this afternoon. Like, I can just wait till then. I was like in a lot of pain, but I'm like, I'm just going to make it. So we went to the doctor's appointment. Maybe it was like 4 in the afternoon. And this was July 1st. And we go to the doctors. They do an ultrasound, and my doctor immediately comes in and she's like, so you've been having contractions all day. Like, you're in labor. Like, she's like, your baby A head is like literally sitting right there, like ready to come out. So she was like, you're going to have your baby, at least baby A today, and the baby's not going to survive. She's like, the only thing we can possibly do for you is hope that you can deliver baby A and your contractions will stop, and we can go in and sew your cervix closed and try and keep baby B in there until, you know, viability, basically. And then she goes, oh yeah, we've determined that your twins actually aren't identical, they're fraternal. So you're having boy and girl. Congratulations. So I had to throw up. I asked for a bucket, a bigger bucket so I could throw up. Never brought one. They had some little tiny, like, barely, I think weren't even real buckets in the room. And I had to throw up. And so my grandma and Corey's cousin ended up like basically taking that back and forth to the bathroom, pouring it out, bringing it back, because they never brought me anything that I could actually throw up in. And it was just like nobody really like cared. They never came to check on me. It's just kind of like I was by myself pretty much laboring. And my grandma, Corey's cousin was there, his aunt, his mom, and his cousin's daughter. They were there like pretty much the whole time we were there. Right before I started feeling like, you know, I needed to push. And that's when the doctor and a few nurses came in, and they realized Corey's cousin was in the room. She was, I don't even know how old she was at the time. She had to be like 12 maybe. All of a sudden they're like, she can't be in the labor room. Like, I was like, she's been here for hours. They would have known this a long time ago had they actually been checking on me.
Right.
But they weren't. So it's, 11:30 at night, and they're finally like, oh, wait, she can't be in here. It felt like I needed to push. The doctor coached me through pushing, and I pushed, and our daughter, Charlotte Lauren, was born at 11:46 p.m. on July 1st, 2014. She was extremely tiny. You could feel her heart beating, although her lungs weren't fully developed, so she wasn't like making noise or crying or anything, and her eyes were still closed. But you could put your hand on her chest and feel her heart beating. I was pretty shooken up, and I asked for perinatologist, who's the infant doctor. I asked for them to come and just see, was there anything they could do? And so they came in and they basically looked at her, wrapped her up in a blanket, and said, sorry for your loss. She wasn't.
While her heart was still beating?
While her heart was still beating. Basically, they said, oh, she looks to be about, 22 weeks or so, give or take. And we don't do any extreme measures to try and save a baby until 24 weeks. So it wasn't that they couldn't do anything. It was just that they wouldn't do anything because by law, they don't have to. We held her, we cried, we took pictures. Everybody left, the doctors and nurses, because, the whole plan was, let's try and get your labor to stop so they could sew up my cervix and I could deliver our son, or I could deliver our son later so I could stay in the hospital and hopefully get to term, or at least closer to term. And about 45 minutes later, I felt like I needed to push again. Corey went, he called the nurses, the doctor, hey, she feels like she needs to push again. Nobody came. But at this point, I had done it before, so I pushed again, and Corey was right there to catch our son, Caleb, who came out with his water bag still intact. And then the doctor and the nurse came in and was like, oh, your son is here. So they popped the bag. Yeah. It's just what in the world? So they popped his bag and basically handed him to us, and we were able to take, pictures and hold both of them. And it was so crazy to me because 10 minutes or so after he was born, both of their hearts stopped beating. And it was kind of she basically was just waiting for her brother for them to go together. And that was just heartbreaking for me. But at the same time, the fact that, they were able to come into the world and leave together was really something that now I look back on that was special. So that was my horror story of loss. Just dealing with people who just really didn't care, and it kind of even brings up just things about now when you see more in society, people bringing up how doctors and nurses don't pay a lot of attention to Black women when they're in labor. And the things that they're going through, and it just kind of dang, my doctors were Black, Black women at that. So why would we have to experience something like that still? But I just felt for the doctors and the nurses, was kind of she's going to deal with loss. So it was it wasn't as high up on their priority level, I guess. They didn't make me a priority or my experience. And that really sucked because the last thing you want to do is go through a situation like that and then have to like live through like a horror story at the same time. Because it's its own horror story in itself, knowing you're about to deliver a child that you can't take home with you. You know, we were able to find a better doctor and have our rainbow. Basically, a little over a year later, so kind of like yours, Shawnee, like where I thought July was like going to be like the worst month every year for the rest of my life. But it's like I do have my sadness at the beginning of July, but at the end of July, I can celebrate and have some joy because of Faith, which she's a blessing. And she's probably like the two that we lost combined as much energy and personality as she has. But it's been interesting to like live through that loss, and then, you know, the subsequent, because I've had 4 miscarriages since Faith was born. Yeah, basically like 1 a year since 2016. But I realized that all loss is very similar, whether it's at 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 21 weeks. Like, loss is loss, and dealing with that is its own separate, like, yeah, it's its own separate challenge that you just can't ever fathom dealing with without going through it. But I'm grateful to be where we are today, despite all the loss. To be able to do stuff like this and bring light to it and like shed light and be there to support other women who have either gone through this and didn't feel the courage or the ability to share. And so I do. I talk to a lot of women that have gone through loss. I have helped quite a few women get through their subsequent rainbow baby pregnancies. And so I do take joy in that, like being able, and it helps heal my heart. Because there are still times where I will break down. But to be able to know that I can share what I went through with other people and help them to navigate through their loss, that is like the blessing that I didn't know I would get from this. Because in the midst of loss, I just felt like I'm never going to be able to like move on from it or to move forward or to grow from it at any point. I just felt like this is just terrible. And I'm going to like not want to ever discuss this or talk about this with people ever again. But actually it's been like the exact opposite of that. I talk about it quite often with a lot of people, but I can appreciate what the Lord has done through our experience of loss with other families and with our family. So
I think it is one of those things that you feel like when it happens, you're never going to be able to talk about this ever.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that I had that were able to express to me that they had gone through this and how even after a decade of having a miscarriage, they still think about those babies, then it made it okay for me to feel like I don't have to forget this child. And so on that, I'm going to turn to Bird to see how segue right
Look
there.
at that. You're getting so good.
yeah.
Okay, so I start at the beginning, not the end.
Well, however you want to start it, boo.
Your story to share.
It's my story. It's odd for me because this is really like the first time really talking about it. I really just started opening up this year about the miscarriage. So I got pregnant in 2010, long time. And gosh, I was just like dating that person for a very short time. So everything happened really fast. I don't think I took the test. I feel like maybe I might have been bleeding and I went to the urgent care or emergency room or something like that. And because I was like in pain and like bleeding, I didn't understand. And then I got there and they did like an ultrasound and they were like, "Oh, you're pregnant with twins." And I was like, "Ha, what, huh, what?"
What?
I thought I had like bad cramps or like, I don't know, some kind of issue. And so I remember going in pain and like just thinking like, okay, I don't know what's wrong with me. And I remember leaving out and kind of like had like more energy and like a different vibe. And then now, like looking back, I'm like, I never really thought to think like, why was I bleeding? Like I went there for an issue and I came out with kids. So it was just like totally different things. Mm-hmm. So then that was in October or early November, probably. And then in November, we went, so I was living in Arizona. We went to California for Thanksgiving.
Because I remember Grandpa.
Yes. She keeps saying that. I don't remember.
That's the part I remember.
I don't remember Grandpa. So by Thanksgiving, I had known I was pregnant, known I was twins. I hadn't really settled on who I was going to tell, what I was going to do, none of that. I feel like somewhere between urgent care and Thanksgiving, I became engaged or some I don't know. Everything
like, was that at Thanksgiving too? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, okay. There you go.
She announced it at Thanksgiving and Grandpa was like, "You ain't getting married." And you was like, "I'm pregnant." He was like, "Oh, well, blah, 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 blah." I can't remember exactly what he said. I'm pretty sure it was some cuss words in there, but he was walking down the hallway to go finish watching basketball or something. That's all I remember.
So I just remember I had barely come to terms with what I was going to do. And then we had went out there and I was like, okay, I'm going to tell of course, my mom, my siblings, people like that. And my wonderful fiance just made an announcement to everybody that was there. There was just a bunch of people there. And I was just like, if you know anything about me, first of all, this situation today is a lot. And then like younger me wasn't like much different. So I'm like, okay, I'm telling all these people that I know, but like, okay, well, I guess I can't go back now if I want to change my mind. So left there, came back home, just kind of like started to get ready. Like I just remember buying diaper bags, buying like little things I was gonna need. I don't really remember a lot of appointments or anything like that. And then I just remember like a few weeks later, just like a lot of pain. And like I usually have like had really bad like cycles, like I would like not want to go to work or like anything, at least for like a day or two. And it was like way worse. And it was worse than what I originally went when I first found out that I was having twins. And so I don't know where my fiance was. I think he was working. I remember calling him. I remember just being alone. And just being in a lot of pain. And being scared because at that time, like, I don't know, it was just a lot of emotions and stuff like that. But so some point in the day or evening, because it was late, it was actually pretty late at night. I don't know, I think maybe he was working, and then when he got in, and by that time I had I'd already miscarried because I remember like just passing them through, and then I had like looked down into the toilet and I was like, I saw both of them. And like Shawnee said, like I had no idea what to do. Like, yeah. And I still struggle with that too. Like, it's not like they could have put them back inside of me, but right. It's like, you know.
But you don't want to be like, I just flushed my baby down the toilet. What am I supposed to do with their bodies? So.
But I knew I was going to be the one to cry.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing them, and like there's two of them and they're like real and they're not inside of me anymore. That was like, and I did it alone. So I think by the time he got there, I was in pain, but I was also upset. And I don't think there's anything that could have been done. Like, even if he dropped everything where he was, like the time wouldn't have, it wouldn't have been enough time. It wouldn't have changed much. But yeah, so we get to the hospital, and I don't know, in my mind, I think I still thought that there was something that could be done, or something that they would say that, I know I didn't have 3 kids, so I didn't know there was a mystery one up there waiting, like, just kidding. There's one more. But then the nurse came in the room, and I don't even, like, a lot of the pieces of the story kind of fall apart because I kind of just went gray. I didn't really see anything. So I just remember miscarrying. I don't remember when he got home. I don't remember how I got to the hospital. I don't remember getting in the room. I don't remember being in the gown. I don't remember everything they did to check me. But I know all this stuff happened because when the nurse came in, she was talking about some levels had dropped. I don't even know what levels.
Your HCG.
Yeah. My levels had dropped. I'm no longer pregnant anymore. And I just like sank and just like went pretty cold. And I just remember like crying. His mother or parents, I don't know. I remember distinctly, at least she was in the room and he was in the room with me. And she, I don't know who she talked to, but she said like we should leave and like let them have this moment. I don't know who he was. Like I said, I don't really know everybody that was there. But I remember he was holding me, and I just remember like just crying from like my soul.
It's real raw footage, and like you don't have to feel bad about crying because you know you didn't work through your loss the way we did, you know. Mm-hmm. So we can kind of we shed a lot of tears, you know, in the process, but you haven't done that yet, and you're doing it now. So don't feel bad about it. Like, yeah. Eventually you'll get to a point where you can share your story without the tears.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm a mess. I'm like trying to tell my story all strong, and it just gets to those parts where you.
How long did I tell my story without crying? Like, it was a long time before I could actually just share and not cry.
I had to, it was one lady in church, and I'm going around hugging everybody when I finally came back to church, and, you know, we're greeting all the people, and she walked up to me, and she held my hands, and I just lost it. Like, she didn't even say nothing. And, like, I don't know if it was, like, Jesus trying, because she was like, I'm here to help you carry this load. And I didn't know I had so much pain and anger and hurt inside of me until, like, I just let that down. And I had to do that, like, it was a weeks of just every time I was in church or at home, and I'm just wailing, crying, screaming, getting that out because I was so devastated. Like, in the moment when it happened, I cried and I screamed because I felt like my joy, like at that moment, had been lost, like literally had just come out of me when the baby left. And so when you don't have that joy, what do you put in that place? And I was just filled with so much anger and rage stuff. And why did this happen to me? And all these other people out here popping out babies left and right, and then my baby's going
popping. These other people out here.
Well, doing that too.
Like, come on, God. Like, this is not right.
Exactly. And so it's very hard. It took me some months, and then to pretty much end up getting pregnant. And I was like, no, I'm not even really fully recovered from, like, I felt guilty about being pregnant because I still hadn't felt like I really grieved the child that I lost. And I'm like, okay, now I got to be happy about this kid when I'm still thinking about the other kid. It's a lot to process, but I don't know how you can have a child live inside of you even for a day and not feel something for that, have some kind of connection with that child. And you had 2 of them.
Yeah, I did. That's still surreal to me. But eventually went home, and then the doctor said that I needed to schedule the DNC, so had the surgery. I'm pretty sure it was like the following day. I've never had surgery before, so getting put under, that was like scary too. So I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. So it's like, I'm fine. There was this.
Yeah, because that was a different time. Like, like we were fresh out of college, and
yeah,
nobody really had been through anything like super significant in life. Like,
or if they had, they didn't talk about it.
Right.
This or that part. People just didn't do that kind of stuff then.
Our family is pretty spectacular and not talking about stuff.
I like your spin on that.
And I didn't even think to talk to my brother about his loss, because I think a part of me felt like how society always, like, it was like there. I keep saying there's no day for us, but there is day. I can celebrate Mother's Day. It's my first one. I'm working on that. But like, society is like how they treated you in the hospital is like, unless you have, until I don't know what age or where they cap where your baby is like important now. I don't.
Not till after they're born, really, is when.
Really, because even women who are pregnant, they like, happy almost Mother's Day. Like, all I have to go through just to be pregnant, and I'm not a mom already. Like,
I'm sharing my body. They jumping on my bladder. My back hurt.
Mom, like, huh?
Half mothers, kind of mama.
But that's society, like.
So I think that's how I treated myself. I'm like, I'm not a mom. Like, I didn't birth kids, like, and so I think I didn't really know how to deal with it, and I didn't really know how I was supposed to deal with it. And so I just kind of like just put it on my back, and we'll just move forward. We'll just think about them, and then we won't get too caught up because they didn't make it here. So, but they did make it here. So, just been working on that. I don't know if I have an after story. I think just now having the capacity to be able to talk about it, even though it's like super, super hard.
Well, this is, it's your life after. It's been almost 10 years.
I know, it's crazy. This, it's 2010, so they would be 9 this year. So that is crazy to me. Because my niece is 9. She's about to turn 10 now. And so I just think about that. What it would be like to have a little her sized human or two little her sized humans. That would be crazy. I probably would be wilded out in Thailand, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Yes, your kids be all over the world.
All over the world.
We're proud of. Maybe they would have a Papa YouTube channel. I don't know.
I'm saying.
Like their Auntie Shani. I think since I hadn't like really dealt with everything, I like now I'm kind of like looking back and I realized that their due date is actually Faith's birthday. So I get to, you know, celebrate on that day too, even though it might be really hard, but I get to honor them on that day and just think about having them, and they would be 4 years older than her. So I think that's going to be different for me this year, but actually good, I think. Because I love Faith. She is awesome. She is a little lion. She reminds me a lot of myself. And she's super cute and funny. But yeah, just to get to this point, to tell my story. And then when I did my first Mother's Day post this year, and just like the support from that was hard. That was, I don't even know why. It's hard to like just accept somebody supporting you. But I also realized that there were other people who shared that, and that was helpful for them. And some people are just ignorant. But I hope that was helpful for them to like see or know or realize, or maybe not. Maybe they still have the same feelings that I feel before, but my motherhood has been very different. So yeah, that's my story.
You can be like, you know, they say an auntie is like a cool version of a mom. So you've got to be the cool mom in all the kids' life when their mama is yelling at them all the time. I don't yell at them all the time, but I'm just saying, like, you're the cool auntie mom thing, but you're a great mom. And I'm so proud of you for being able to go on Instagram and write about it and share it, not knowing how people are going to receive it, and then being able to get on the video and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this video.
I don't think I really have a choice. I can't do
later.
Huh? Oh,
Later, like
a week later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to I don't know why. I still feel obligated to hold myself together.
I think that's normal. But it's okay to give yourself time. That's what I learned in after my miscarriage was it's okay for me to feel. It's okay for me to experience what I'm going through, to know that I'm hurting. And, you know, when I really just went to God and I was like, I don't know how to get past this. And this hurt me. And because God knows if you angry with him. That's what I had to experience too. Like I had to accept that God knew like I was mad. Like I was like, Jesus, I kind of want to cuss you out mad, but I'm not gonna cuss at you because you Jesus. So but
it was on the street.
If you was somebody on the street, we'd be fighting right now because you just let this happen. But during that time, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube about other people who had gone through miscarriages. And one was this pastor, and he was talking about how when, you know, because people don't talk about how men deal with this as well. Like the father of the child feels some kind of way too. They just don't deal with their feelings the way that women do. But this pastor said that, you know, when he went through it, he was angry and he talked to God and he was like, why did you let this happen? And what we have to understand is God he doesn't take life. That's what I had to come to terms with. But sometimes things do happen. We may not know, like Laura was saying, we may not, if God gave us the answer to why it happened, you know, I would give my life for my child. If it came between I might die or my baby might die, I was like, Lord, you could take me, just don't let my baby die. I can't do that. And
That's why I'm like, in like for special needs, I'm like, I'll take a special needs child. Like, you don't have, I'm not picky. Like,
right. And I felt like that too. I was like, okay, if something's wrong with my baby, that's okay. I just don't want my baby to have to not be here. And so it's, even if God could give you the answer of why it happened.
But that's the thing I had wrote in my post too. I was like, even if God asked me for would it make, and I said yes, that wouldn't make it like an easier process or thing to go through. Like, okay, God, here's my child, but I still don't have my children. You know?
Right.
And I always think about like, you know, and a lot of people had to bring it up to me, but like, you know, how you said, like, God's like, I'm there with you. I'm holding you. I'm wiping the tears from your eyes, because he lost a child too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus died for 3 days. Like,
Right.
he was dead. Nothing. There was nothing that changed about that. It's like he had to go. He suffered through that loss of his child the same way that we did.
Yeah.
But the glory is that we know that, hey, and I've always looked at, let me see, I have the verse. My belief, which I know, like we said, like a lot of people say different things about babies and, you know, what happens. But for me, it's Psalms 139:13. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. And I just think about that in terms of the babies that we've lost. Like, each one was created by God and placed into our wombs. So I see each one of them as a separate child, because I feel like they were special in that way to us. God created them. He made them specifically for us and for our wombs. And now, you know, we get these children, these rainbow babies here on earth that are blessings. But I and that's my own personal thing, is that I feel like they are their own person.
Right.
Because I don't know. I feel like God's not that lazy to be like, I'm just the same kid back. No, he created.
Let me catch him back on the way.
Right, like,
to heaven,
he created my inmost being. So why would you just give, you know, less care to somebody or another child? Like, no, you created this inmost being of each one of my children.
Right.
So I always think about that. Like these are our kids. Each one of them is unique and special in their own way, whether they're here on earth or whether they're not here on earth. And I can thank God for that. And I think about like the whole death part in the terms of like at our twins' funeral, it was like said like, hey, you know, these babies died because of sin. And a lot of people kind of took offense to it, like, huh? Like, you saying they died because their parents sinned? Like
my whole face just changed. Like, wait a minute.
a lot of people's face thought that, and I felt that kind of in a way too at first, but when I really started to think about it, he wasn't saying like, because you sinned personally, God took your kid away, but because sin entered this world, death entered this world. God never created for us to die. We were supposed to live and live forever with him, which will happen when the second coming comes and he gets rid of this earth and we live in heaven. Or do we live on this earth that is heaven? I don't know how it's going to happen, but
we'll figure that out later.
Yeah, but
he
didn't create death. Death was not supposed to enter this world. But when sin entered, death entered, and we have to unfortunately deal with death, whether it's the death of a parent, grandparent, a child. We have to experience death because of sin in this world that created death. And you know, you hope and pray that you don't ever have to experience it, but like everyone experiences death. It's just a child's death is extra hard because you're like, I'm the parent. I'm supposed to go first. Like, I'm not supposed to bury my children. That's what I like. That was my whole thing. Like, I'm not supposed to bury my children. Like, they're supposed to bury me. Like, they're gonna be sad because I'm old and crusty, and they gotta bury me.
Get on their nerves.
I'm not supposed to be burying them. Like, this is not normal in any way, shape, or form. But unfortunately, it's the consequences of sin being in our world right now, and it sucks. But I mean, not our consequence per se, but it wasn't ever intended. God never intended for us to go through these things.
Right.
But now that we do, it's a beautiful thing to be able to do something like this and be on a platform like this where we can share our experience with other people so that they know that they're not alone. You know, like you, Bird, like, you're not alone, even though at the time, you know, because I keep thinking about your story and you're sharing, you're like, I was alone, but, you know, you were never alone, really. Like, God was always there with you. But for the physical, like here being on earth, like, hey, you're not alone. You have other moms who have been through this and who understand and who feel the exact same way that you feel, who those tears that you crying today and any other day, we've cried 1,000 times over, you know, like, you're not alone. You're not ever by yourself. And so I thank you, Shawnee, for allowing me to join this call, this experience. Because
Thank you.
I think it's going to be special. I think it's going to touch a lot of women, maybe even some fathers too.
I hope so. Maybe one day we'll do one for fathers and let them share their stuff if they're open to do that.
I think it's different for them too, especially like as you know, like the world puts them in this box where they don't. You're not supposed to show emotion. You can't have, you know, feelings around that, and you know the babies weren't inside you, so like, you know, what's the? But I even know with my ex, like he had to go through that journey on his own as well, and he later had another set of twins and had lost them as well. So when we talked years later, he did tell me that he had to like work through that and how difficult it was for him. And he told me I should get, you know, should try to work through the loss of the twins. And I was like, yeah, okay, like that was so long ago, you know. So
She's like, don't try to tell me what to do. You don't know my life.
You are going you, okay? Tell me.
Get your own life. Worry about yourself.
Yeah. And I really genuinely thought like it wasn't like it didn't still affect me that way. So I was like, okay, I think I'm fine, you know. Like sometimes it still, you know, brings up emotions, but I don't think I'm like
Yeah.
So.
But yes, it is good to work through it. Work through the grief and the pain.
Sometimes it's good to punch a bag. Okay, just saying.
Okay. Whatever you gotta do.
Do what you got to do.
There is no, I have learned. There is no wrong way to grieve. Like,
Yeah.
you want to lay in your bed with the covers pulled over you for months, that's fine. If you want to talk to a therapist or talk to a friend, like whatever, or you don't want to talk to nobody, like that's like no wrong way to grieve. Just grieve, like, because the more you grieve, the more your heart heals and the easier it gets, which sounds crazy. It sounds crazy because people always tell me, I'm like, that sounds ridiculous. Like, my heart's gonna heal and I'm gonna feel better the more I cry. Like, no. But it really does. It really does. Like, and I'm glad. So, yes, I appreciate this.
Well, I thank you, ladies, for coming on and having the courage and the boldness to talk about this. And I love you guys so much. Bye, guys. Love you.
Okay.